You could spend hours or even days painting every single hair and detail that you see on a pet portrait. Or you could use the three-step process and achieve results like this in just 15 minutes or less. And I'm doing it on a really big sheet of paper. Let's paint.
We're going to start by painting with water. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of give this water a little color just so you can kind of see where I'm painting. I'm using my 1-inch flat wash brush. And what I want to do is paint kind of where I see the darkest darks. So I see a lot of shadow right there. And then I'm going to go ahead and kind of continue painting with water in the mid-tone areas. Basically, I'm keeping a lot of space, a lot of white space for highlights, anywhere that I want the white of the paper to show through, or where the very lightest hair is on the dog. So I'm just adding color just so you can see where I'm painting with water. Nothing you need to do, unless it helps you see where you've painted with water. I could see how that could be beneficial. So painting these chunky shapes, again, where the darkest darks are, and then the midtones. Give yourself some margin though. You don't need to go too far into the lighter areas because we will be able to do that with our grainer brush. So I'm going to go a little bit into that area with my flat brush. Nothing too crazy. And I'm going to start by just kind of doing this side of the dog. So dark, light, doing the dark side first with this 3-step process. So I'm going to go ahead and take my larger grainer brush because I am working on a pretty large sheet of paper. I'm going to get that wet and I'm going to come in with our dark shadow color, which is this beautiful pinky purple, like this warm purple. And that is just opera pink plus neutral tint. So it's just a darkened opera pink and it gets you this beautiful warm purple. And you can adjust that depth, make it more pink or more black, depending on your color mix, which is one of the reasons why I love a nice limited palette and mixing up your own secondary colors. So I am putting this where I see the darkest darks. And it should be spreading out in a really pretty way where we put that water. And this is also why I like to start on the dark side. Now I want you to have a tool ready for scraping because step 3 in the process is finishing with texture techniques. And we're going to be finishing with visible brush strokes using our grainer brush and scraping using our scraping tool. I love a palette knife. And I'm kind of making my purple a little bit more pink as we approach the light side. And I always put down a little bit more than I think I need, than the value I want it to dry in, because it will always dry lighter. So I'm going to go ahead and pull some of this color down, and you can't really see, but I'm kind of just pulling it all the way down to the edge of the paper.
If you are loving what you are learning so far and are excited to do the full paint-along tutorial of Alice the Dachshund, it is all available for you in my membership program.
And what I'm going to do now is take this residual color and do visible brush strokes. So what we just did by adding color is step 2. We added color. We paint with water, step 1, add color, step 2, finish with texture techniques, which is step 3. Sometimes I add a little too much water, so I just lifted some of that out. So right now I'm grabbing a nice pinky purple, really heavy on the pink, and I'm finishing with texture techniques simply by just painting visible brush strokes with my grainer brush. And we're going to repeat this 3-step process for the different colors that we're using in this painting. So we'll get to be able to practice quite a bit. But I love a good mix of abstract, runny, beautifulness with visible brush strokes. It's just so beautiful. So I'm kind of just pulling this color and letting it kind of maneuver around And then right here, where it meets the face, I'm being a little bit more precise with my grainer brush, just kind of creating a hairy edge by pulling that color right along that edge of the face, so we know where the face begins. I'm going to take this brush. I'm not going to clean it. I do need more water. I'm going to go ahead and grab a really heavy mix of my fur color. So we just laid down the shadow color, the purple, and now we're laying down the actual color of the fur. So now we are doing step 2 again with this second color. And I'm typically, what I like to do is put it right next to the shadow color, while I'm just making sure to save my lightest lights. So we kind of do dark to light. We painted the really dark darks. Now we're painting the midtones with the actual color of the fur. And quinacridone gold is absolutely gorgeous and really cool, and also can be kind of frustrating in how it moves other colors around and spreads on your painting. So it's both beautiful in that it does this, and it can be a little bit annoying. So I'm putting this right where I really see that beautiful highlight of gold. And you can vary the wateriness level of the gold you're putting down, the strength of the pigment. And I'm doing texture techniques too, kind of at the same time I'm laying down color. So step 2 and step 3 are kind of muddling together a little bit, in that I'm laying down color in a way that's also creating fur patterns or texture. And now my third color is going to be buff titanium. So this will be, again, painting the color of the fur and the lightest lights at the same time. So picking up a nice heavy mix of that, finishing everywhere I see the lightest lights of the hair. And we are going to be scraping too. Buff titanium is so pretty, as it does really pretty things. So I'm kind of trying to get it to facilitate a little bit of movement into those darker colors we already just put down. Again, right along the edges of the gold and kind of the edges of the purple, moving from dark to light. And you can see how it's looking hairy without us having to paint every single individual hair. And I just love that. Now I want to think about where this is going into the chin of the dog. So I'm going to pull this up with my grainer brush, doing step 3 here, creating these textury areas and adding color at the same time. And I love a good visible brush stroke, kind of suggesting these beautiful fur patterns that she has. And then the third, step 3, texture techniques. So the second, I should say, texture technique is scraping. And that's simply just using any kind of tool to scrape a line through the paint you put down. And depending on how wet or dry your paint is, you might create a line that's lighter by literally scraping pigment off your painting, or darker by creating an indent that the pigment travels into. But that's the beauty of scraping, is you get to achieve both. So I would just kind of have fun and see what you're getting as you scrape these lines in. And don't give up if you're not getting the lighter lines yet, because you will as it starts to dry. And if this is your very first time scraping, you might not achieve those lighter lines at all. because timing is really important and it can be hard to get on your first time, your first few times, your first many times. But you can really see how if you do catch it, it can be so pretty. And all of a sudden, we're getting in hairy shapes without having to paint individual hairs. Just like that. 3-step process. It's just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. I love the little hair highlight wispy hairs we're getting over here. So I'm continually testing that out in hopes that I'll get some in this purple area. But I have to be patient. And then you can finish it again with another texture technique by simply, my kids are playing quite a bit right now. It's a little distracting, but we can manage. We can do it. You can soften these harder edges and kind of pull color into the lightest lights that you saved. And it's just kind of creating further texture. And then you can also paint more hairy texture with your grainer brush. And I'm kind of using some buff titanium over the purple, and it's almost pushing the purple out because it's not quite dry yet. I call that technique color resist. And that one's harder. That one's harder to time right. But you can do a lot just by trying. Just by, you know what would happen if I did this with that kind of curious attitude and see. And I'm trying not to overdo it. And I feel like I'm getting close to that point where I have plenty of information here. I can take a little deep breath and move back. But how cool is that? We just created so much texture and so much watercolor effect in just 3 steps. By just kind of bringing it down like that, you can really do a lot in a short amount of time while letting watercolor do the work. Fun. Really fun. I will see you in the next video. Happy painting.